Thank you for staying with us. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party has remained vocal in his position on President Tinubu's forging his Chicago State University certificate. Although various evidences have been given to prove that the president indeed graduated from the school, the former vice president has refused to believe, saying it was fake. A coalition of civil society organizations have now urged President Bola Tinubu to revoke the National Merit Award of Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, that's GCON, bestowed on the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. According to the convener of the coalition, Dr. Lillian Obole, she says Atiku's actions were, quote, getting clearer, end quote, that he was on a, quote, collision course with national interests, end quote, and had never subscribed to true democracy or respected the rule of law. She also asserted that the PDP's inquiry into Bola Ahmed Tinubu's certificate at Chicago State University in the United States was an embarrassment to the nation. Well, joining us in the studio to discuss this issue is the convener and National President Campaign for Dignity in Governance, Razak Olukoba. Razak, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, I wonder what your impression is about this coalition of civil society organizations saying that the national honors be withdrawn. Why? Is it necessary?
Well, let's situate the matter properly. Civil society organizations are one of the conscience of the nation. They moderate government policies and actions and come up with this kind of summations. Now, looking at the demand will compel us to look at who is Atiku. He was custom officer then, the vice president of the nation. It was given the title that the CSO demanded that it should be stripped off. And in school, at convocation grant or at matriculation grant, there are things you read that day, people don't pay attention to it. And that is why school authority, after having found a graduate of their school involved in certain activities, they make a pronouncement that he has been stripped of the certificate they gave him. So viewers at home must know that at no point in time anybody can make this kind of a request. It's not out of line.
Okay.
So let's establish that. Now, why do they make those short demand? They have looked at the demand that can give you or qualify you to have that type of honor. Your attitude, your character, your pedigree as vice president. So it's almost an automatic thing once you become the president in Nigeria or you become the vice president. But the countries in the world do this kind of thing that they demanded for, particularly if they see that their president, either living or dead, has been involved in a particular attitude. Many of those honors were stripped off generals that took part in the genocide against the Jews. We can begin to give numerous examples. So now, when Atiku left office, there was a book written by Obasanjo. And that book, it described Atiku in a particular manner. That's enough for Nigerians to begin to call for.
The stripping of...
Yes, that's enough. That's sufficient enough. That's number one. Number two is that there were also instances of involvement of whether it has been established or not. That is not good for the president of the nation as a VP, either whatever, whether he's living, whether he's still in office or outside office. Then, political ethics in Nigeria is not well spelled out by INEC. And that is what CSO is trying to do. There should be ethics in politics. Even if I want to become president of Nigeria, there are things that I should not be found doing. So for me, the demand of these people, we have to take it serious. And as also a member of civil society, we must also begin to align with them. Because we must set this kind of precedence that there's a limit to which you incite Nigeria against each other. Look at what happened before the election. We almost become enemies of each other. Christians almost become the enemy of Muslims. So if we don't begin to straighten out our lifestyle, we may be in for it. And the picture in mind is that are we living in a country that the elders don't bother to look back and see the children coming out behind them? What kind of politics are we playing? I know the certificate saga does not begin today. It's been on since 1999. We were involved in it. As a member of the radical extraction of this country, I was part of the people that contributed my school fees to ascertain whether Tinubu finished in Chicago or not. I contributed my salary. I don't want to mention the name of lawyers that did the search. So it's not mockery that has been going there. And we came back to discover that these are concoctions. These are conjectures that are not true. So if you now come about it again, after several decades, to begin to distract Nigerians when we have issues that we should be addressing.
But there are those who will ask, is he not exercising his constitutional right at, getting necessary information or making inquiries?
For wasting Nigerians' time, Veronica, is VP of Nigeria. If any other Nigeria, if any former VP, if any other Nigeria is doing this type of thing, we may not be too bothered. But we also tell them that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. As a younger radical extraction in the 90s, when the thing came up, those are one of the few moments we disagree with Ganifa or Emi, that on this note, Chief, we did our research, and nobody can argue us into turning this man into criminal. We can't criminalize him. And that is why, when you see you coming out with confidence, it's not what I read in the paper. It's what we have been able to ascertain. We have been able to ascertain it ourselves. So, if you come, they knew in their own mind that it's a distraction, that's a possibility of rupturing a lot of things politically and economically for this country. That is a desperation that we must point out. And that is why the group is coming out. I don't know the group, I don't know the leader, but I align my position with them that it is better to begin to call for this kind of punitive measure against statesmen who are supposed to be impeccable in character. Look at Gowon. Look at Jonathan. Look at Abubakar, Absalam Abubakar. So even Babangida, that the most talk about ex-president of this country, look at his composure today in Nigeria. These are people who are beginning to live eminent life, that issues about Nigeria can be taken to them and you are sure of getting appropriate advice. Who will go to Atiku for advice with this kind of character? Even if it's not contested.
Those who believe him would want to go to him.
The argument some people will definitely put forth is that they feel, okay, we have new generations who will not be acquainted with what had happened, transpired decades ago. And they are also saying, well, maybe the president would have helped explain all of these things so as to put pay to some of this ulabalu about whether he attended CSU or not.
See, at the moment, my passport reads Enugu as my place of birth. I made an attempt to change it. I hope one day when I contest the election, someone will not go and say that I am from Enugu. But there's a confusion between where you are from, whether your state of origin or where you were born. I was born in Enugu, but I never knew that they were talking about your state of origin. But it doesn't matter. When we were also in school, when we were rusticated in school, we put in a lot of names. I put in a lot of names. Let me not speak for anybody. That Olokoba, and with some abbreviations, thinking that the school authority, they catch us and they eventually rusticated us. So if I had used that as name to graduate today, people will say, I'm not saying that these are the things that Tinubu did. But at the end of the day, if I had graduated, anybody who knew me will come out to say that Razak, he was even a president when we were in school. And this is the picture playing. So when you have this kind of picture in mind, you knew very well that what you were doing is an attempt to create confusion and further incite Nigerians against each other. It's not fair. And for the young people, I can't begin to educate the young people what they need to do. We were almost teenagers too when we were talking about to contribute our school fees to go and start whether the governor of Lagos actually finished in school or not. We were young people. But today, you should be able to dissect who Atiku is. Obasanjo knew who he was. You heard what he said. He said that I was the one that told Obasanjo not to take Lagos. As if it's a piece of paper. I will reply him. I will reply him in a press conference that you couldn't have taken Lagos. And Obasanjo knew the implication why he never tried to rig election in Lagos. He did it in other states. And Atiku was the head of that committee of take it by force during OBJ's time. They took Kwara State by force from ANPP that time. They took so many states. And that is the character that is exhibiting now, that he must take Nigeria by any means necessary. That's not acceptable to us. We won't allow him to turn Nigeria upside down. It's not going to work.
Is it about him turning Nigeria upside down?
That's what he's trying to do.
Making claims to the
It's
Supreme
not making
Court,
any
because he has
claim.
gone to court, making claims to the Supreme Court.
Many institutions.
Some of these things.
Many institutions, including the BBC, and they are longer with BBC now. Anybody that disagrees with them, they have a penchant of not trying to engage people intellectually. Bring up your evidence. The school authorities said that we knew this guy is finished in our school. BBC also confirmed it. And when you have arrogated yourself to become an authority that anything you say is final, you run into this kind of problem. And that's what we are saying to the young people that go out on your own. Everything does not stand and end on social media. There must be research. Nobody is going to mentor you except we are willing for mentorship. It's
easier now with the instrument of social media.
Yes, it's easier now. You can do your research. You can, on your own, you can draw conclusions. But when people give you half knowledge, this is what is capable of doing. If you want to become an activist, it's an exercise on its own that you must learn how to do. Half knowledge about anything is better than ignorance. So, and all this half knowledge about engagement of people and how to run an outfit that speaks to the conscience of the nation, that's not to do it. So, in clear terms, we will also come out and support. Yeah, we will also come out and support the civil society.
Of this national honors do, really? What will it change? That will be the next question, because it's not stopping him from speaking or going about whatever intention you are interpreting he has in his mind.
And that is going to do a lot of things. We have made strong proposals to INEC that the fact that a governor or a president, chairman of local government, or a councillor wins an election, it's not sufficient to say that there's that knowledge how to understand the political culture of Nigeria or governance. That INEC must compel all political parties to train whoever that wants to conduct election on all issues, including ethics, and state out clearly that these are the ethics and these are penalty for it. So it's going to be a precedence for others who might want to wear this kind of gown of blackmail. It's important for us as a nation to enforce it in our laws. That's number one. Then, after becoming either president or governor, or INEC must also learn to periodically train so that while in office, you know who you are as a president. When you are no longer in office, you know what you are supposed to, so that you won't be writing letters again as a former president.
But then
so that
they would
you will not be. No, it's important for our nation.
No, I understand you, but they would,
because there's a limit to your freedom.
They would disagree with you because you know, some people in some quarters will always say that INEC is not really doing its job in terms of, you know, ferreting out information about different, you know, candidates, and that's the reason why they go to court. They put these ladies before the court, and they realize that, oh, certain things were not done, certain information were not really, you know, gotten before this person contested and even won the election. So some already put question marks around INEC being able to ascertain all of this. So if INEC is not doing this, wouldn't it be like they will be guarding, exactly, overburdening, and then also gagging other people from, you know, looking alternative ways to find out information?
Our nation is our nation. INEC is the institution to do anything possible to ensure that the person who is going to rule Nigeria is in the right state of mind. That's the duty of INEC. So whatever the blackmail against INEC, if your candidate do not merit that INEC standard, bring another candidate out so that we won't be faced. Because if we had put that measure in place, people like Atiku will not imagine the first instance as a VP to Obasanjo. There will be that guideline. There's no how he could have scaled through. There's no how he would have become the vice president for him to now be inciting Nigerians against Nigerians again. You need to read Obasanjo's book. The description about Atiku is very scary, and nobody has been able to controvert it today. Even Atiku did not go to court about it, which means that If I'm looking for an employment, and someone said I should bring a recommendation letter from someone I was a subordinate to, and he gave that kind of recommendation, will you employ me? And that is part of the reason.
That may be subject to personal opinion.
No.
So?
A president, that is why I said that once you become the president, you are an institution. And that is why that institution, we must do everything to ensure that we manage it very well. Either you are in office or outside. That's why when you see Gowon conducting himself in a particular way, it's the respect he has for office that he has occupied before. Abubakar Salam, even Babangida, including Jonathan, when they conduct themselves in a particular way, there's no law guiding them at the moment, too. But in the rest of the world, there must be what looks like a semblance of a law guiding them, a regulation guiding them. And it's not their own state of mind. There's an institution responsible for doing that, which is the INEC. INEC should be the one guy. It should be assertive that this should not be coming out from the president. And the best way to avert it is what I've said, that from the beginning, political party must ensure that even if you become the president, we have our own manifesto, there must be standard that you must maintain as a president of Nigeria before you become the president. Then after becoming the president, there's a model other countries have adopted. It might not be training in other countries of the world, but in Nigeria it might be training, it might be seminar that from councillor to the post of a president, these are characters that is expected of you. Even if you want to become a lawyer, that thing the lawyers read every day. It's it that binds them to that institution. And that is why those institutions, when recently some young girls murdered an hotelier in Kwara, quickly answer off it. Then there was also a lawyer on social media. What did the Nigerian Bar Association say about that? Then there was also a student from Kwara State University. What is this? So there must be that kind of penalty for any current serving president or a former president that is ascribed to behaving like this. So it's in line. And it's going to send a clear message to our leaders, the former leaders, that there are things expected of you. If it had been a party member that is doing all this article, that senators are coming out from me. If it had been a party member, it's okay. But
what difference would that make?
No. A former president is an institution.
Right.
And if you take part in an election to become the president of Nigeria, you have followers. You have people on the strength of what you have said. They have seen you as the alpha and the omega of the election. You just see people committing suicide because of their kind of lost an election. And that's the picture you must have in mind, that there are people who believe in this one. So anything you are going to say, anything you are going to do should be tailored towards nation building. If you go out of it, there must be penalty for it. So what he's doing at the moment, there must be a penalty for it. Of course, I love APC, I voted for APC, but that's not the reason why I'm saying that. That is not the reason why I'm saying that. I'm saying this because of our nation. The rest of the world are not waiting for us. There are things happening all over the world. We are still battling with what should be the character of a former president. That is not too good for us. And we are the giant of Africa. We want to lead Africa out of the crisis of nation we find ourselves today. And with this kind of, if we allow it to go, the rest of the world may not take Africa serious, because Africa is the champion. Yes, Africa is the champion, and Nigeria is the champion in Africa. So for the group that has called for, it's a noble thing, and the government must not take it with levity. The government must take it serious. If we need to build a buffer around this, we are going to do it. And that they are the first group that has called for it means that many Nigerians are also thinking in this light. It's not a persecution. It is the character of a former president that is missing in him that we must take note of.
Former vice president.
Former vice president that we must take note of. You know, in the rest of the world, they don't even call them former. They still call them. And that is the kind of respect they command. A governor, a former vice president, that's the kind of respect they command. So if this kind of things are coming out from me, it's not good for the nation. So for us, it should be stripped of that honor. And INEC should also take note that any future election that is coming up, from any political party, anybody that's this kind of character should not be allowed to contest the election. We have 250 million Nigerians. And our faith is more important than the ambition of just one individual.
That's right.
You drag us to a point in the last 4 weeks in alliance with the Labour. You drag us to a point where you want to run our nation aground. We can't be watching. We can't turn our country into a country where if you travel out,
are there no other?
No, that's one of the first stages.
Are there no other, punitive measures that might be meted out on that, other than, stripping him of the national honors? Wouldn't that amount to using a sledgehammer to kill a mouse?
If there be more serious measure, I would have recommended it. There are more serious measure. I consider this one very serious. An alternative to this, if there are more serious and severe measure than this, I will have recommended it. But this is severe enough. And that is going to send a message, a clear message, to people who have this kind of character and attitude. If you want to talk about individuals, you say it with respect, not to talk of someone who has been a former president of Nigeria. What kind of image do you want the youth to have in mind about you? So it's not too good enough. And we all know the arrays of accusations that has been trailing the former vice president. We know, we read it in the paper.
Including Atiku Abubakar or...
Yes, so all these issues, there's no moral issue for anybody to start saying this kind of thing about another person. And for the particular issue that he's talking about, they knew in their own mind.
Why are we not allowing the courts to just run its course? I mean, bottom line for me.
It should be debated. It should be debated. Everything does not stop and end in courts. More so, it's about our nation. And this kind of discourse is going to save the nation a lot of things. If you don't discuss it and exhaust it, people will begin to take initiative on their own. And that's what drags the nation down. So the fact that we are debating in that is remove pressure from the mind of a lot of Nigerians.
All right. We'll have to leave the conversation here. Razak Olukoba, National President and Convener, Campaign for Dignity in Governance. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. It's a pleasure being with you.